Hello, 你好, welcome back. 欢迎回来to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on April 2nd, 2025. That weather out there does not look like springtime, although we are supposedly officially in springtime weather and season right now. At least every day I wake up, my sneezing and sinus, drippy nose, and my seasonal allergy tells me that it is springtime. So, have you guys ever wondered about in throughout history, not just Chinese history, but throughout history, there have been so many great minds, geniuses, like genius level intellect, scholars and mathematicians and artists and philosophers, guys like Confucius, guys like Buddha, guys like okay, fine, guys like Jesus Christ. I might as well include him. Um, like there's a lot of great minds throughout ancient history, but how is it that most of these guys did not uh, get to do great work? A lot of them did not reach a high ranking in the government, high ranking in society. You would think that if someone is like great, so great that Einstein or someone like Bell or Newton, people like minds like that, you would think that if you put these guys in the government, if you put these guys in like a national defense or something, if they can apply their great mind to civic duty or to making better things for the world, for society, wouldn't that be the way to do it? But if we look back, and even if we look at how things are today, most of the time, the real genius level intellect, the people that are really good at what they do, are not the ones that get uh, used by corporations or governments or organizations in any kind of high-ranking capacity, right? So why is that? Well, today I'm going to take you back into ancient Chinese history and show you some prime examples of why is it that traditionally speaking, geniuses were not wanted by the government. They were not cherished by the government. In many ways, they were not used by the government. First, let's look at the poet and philosopher and scholar by the name of Yang Jiu, and who was one of the four greatest scholars in the Tang Dynasty. Now, to us today, this may not sound like a big deal. Tang Dynasty is like 1600 years ago, um, really far away. So some of us will think, well, okay, so how big is it? How big a deal is that? Being one of the greatest scholars in Tang Dynasty. Well, if you actually study history, you would probably know that Tang Dynasty was the greatest dynasty in Chinese history, and the Tang Dynasty was known for its innovation in science, in art, in philosophy, in poetry, in music. Like it had so much innovations and inventions and great minds during the Tang Dynasty. It was amazing. So to be one of the four greatest scholars in Tang Dynasty. And if you look at the list, Yang Zhou, our subject of today, actually was often put at number two. He was the second best scholar in Tang Dynasty. So he not just one of the four. He was actually number two. He was the second best uh, of the entire Tang Dynasty in his philosophy, in his poetry, in his art, in his music, and all that stuff. Okay, let me give you guys an put it in context of how great Yang Zhou was. This guy was so smart that he passed the imperial exam when he was 9 years old. Yeah, okay, like that imperial exam. I'm talking about the imperial exam that many scholars study their whole life, like you know, for 10 years, and then write the exam, and then they would fail, and then they would study another 10 years and write the exam, and then they fail. A lot of scholars never got anywhere with the imperial exam. That's how hard it was to pass the imperial exam for a lot of people. This Yang Zhou passed the imperial exam when he was 9 years old, right? Clearly genius level intellect. However, Yang Zhou had a really bad habit that he was unable to govern his own mouth. He was not good at keeping things to himself. He was uh, like one of these people on Facebook today. Anything that crosses their mind, they have to write something about. They see a dog on the street, they have to post about. They see something, someone has a stupid looking car, they'll post about it. They see someone who did something, uh, uh, drop a piece of garbage on the road, they'll write something about. Like they have to post about everything. Yang Zhou was such a person. He had no filter. Everything that went through his mind, he had to write articles and poetries and stories about, and he would publish them. For example, the like I said, Yang Zhou was the second best, and the first number one scholar was a guy by the name of Wang Bo. At first, when people said that Yang Zhou was the second and Wang Bo was the first, Yang Zhou was really mad, and he started writing a lot of articles about how Wang Bo was nobody, was nothing. Wang Bo was nowhere as smart as he was. I passed the imperial exam at the age of 9. What does Wang Bo have? Why is he number one? He's nothing comparing to me. So like Yang Zhou basically got very obnoxious, and it wasn't until he actually met Wang Bo in person and had a conversation, and he realized, oh wow, Wang Bo is really smart. So then he did a 360. He like turned on a dime and started writing stories, talking about how great Wang Bo was, and comparing to Wang Bo, he wasn't as smart, so he's okay being number two because Wang Bo was clearly smarter than him. Like so, Yang Zhou was this kind of person. He had this kind of personality. He would post and write about everything. I mean, there's no Facebook or Twitter back then, but he would write about everything, everybody. And this was why, even though he passed the imperial exam at the age of 9, he did not become used by the government. He did not earn a seat in the government until 16 years later, because everybody around him knew that he was not uh, 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 he was not good at keeping things to himself. He was too loud. He was too outspoken, and he was too offensive. So even though he passed the exam at the age of 9, no one would use him. No one would hire him until uh, he waited until he's almost 25 years old, and then he said, "Okay, the heck with it. I'm going to go write the exam again and pass it again, just so I'll show you guys just how good I am." So he did. He went and wrote the imperial exam a second time and passed it a second time, and finally got himself a position in the government. Now you would think that okay, you you should by this time him being one of the smartest people in the entire kingdom, he should know by now. oh well, maybe I should you know, have more of a filter. I should be more low key because you know I had to wait for 16 years to get a job. That's why, because people didn't like me. No, unfortunately, Yang Zhou did not learn from his past mistake. As soon as he started working for the uh, imperial palace, he started publishing articles, and one of his most famous articles basically called everyone other than himself. He called everyone other than himself that worked for the government 麒麟穴. Okay, this is an old Chinese, uh, very negative term 麒麟穴. What does it mean? It means, well, qilin, qilin is a Chinese mystical animal, ranking up there with the dragon, the phoenix, and the black tortoise. Qilin is a good animal, right? Now, the word xian is basically stuffing or something you use to copy uh, something. So, for example, when you make shoes, and you know how sometimes they will put a fake foot inside the shoe, so you can measure that, and then you can tailor the shoe to the size of that foot. Well, that fake foot is called a xian. Okay, so traditionally speaking, uh, Chinese stage play would have need of using healing in the story. But obviously, because healing never existed as a real animal, so to get a healing or qilin, Chinese stage managers would draw the healing on a piece of animal hide and then drape that animal hide over a donkey. So basically, they would dress the donkey up to make it look like a qilin. So a donkey was called a qilin shen, a fake qilin, a qilin model, basically. And so when when Yang Zhou wrote this article and called everybody other than himself that worked for the government a Qilin Shen, basically he's saying that all these people that they wear beautiful clothes, they wear beautiful jewelry, they have high ranks, but when they are behind closed door, they're donkeys, they're asses, they're not they're not the Qilin they pretend to be. He offended pretty much the entire imperial court. That shortly after he finally got a job with the government, he got fired and was banned from ever taking part in politics ever again. Yeah, sad, huh? Look at that. Like such a great mind. The second best scholar in the entire Tang Dynasty, banned from politics for his whole life because he couldn't govern his own mouth. He couldn't keep his mouth shut. So, the number one reason why a lot of great scholars wouldn't get used by the government is because they were too loud, they were too offensive, they couldn't keep their mouth shut. The second reason why a lot of these great scholars, great minds were not used by the government, were not allowed to work for the government, was a lot of them were too weird. Now, if you are in the artistic pursuit, like Johnny Tiger is, if you do music, if you do martial arts, if you do visual art, if you write poetry, then you know being weird is a good thing. Being weird means you're not conventional. Being weird means you have your individual style. That's good in artistic practice. That's good in scholarly pursuit. Because when you write poetry and articles and when you draw pictures and stuff like that, it's your own. You're unique. And the weirder, the better, right? Like almost seems like how things are. But in politics, no, when you're too weird, a lot of time you're not going to be allowed to work for any kind of position in the government because government need you to be predictable. They need you to conform. They can't have someone with a really weird quirk working for the government. Prime example, another great mind from the Tang Dynasty. This guy's from the later Tang Dynasty by the name of Wen Tingyun. His name translates to bamboo in the yard. Bamboo in the yard is a really beautiful name. Wen Tingyun was a really great scholar, not one of the top four, but definitely would be among one of the top 15 greatest scholar in Tang Dynasty. Wen Tingyun, on top of being a great scholar, he's a descendant of one of the royal advisors for the emperor. Okay, so he came from privilege. He came from a family that was already in politics, and he was one of the greatest minds of his time as well. A guy like that should be, a king's minister or king's advisor, no question asked. But he was never allowed to work for the government. Why? Because Wen Qingyun had a really weird habit. Wen Qingyun liked to cheat during imperial exam. Now, some of you will say, wait. Well, you said he's one of the smartest people in Tang Dynasty, so why would he need to cheat? This is where he is really weird. This is why he's weird. Wen Qingyun liked to cheat for other people. He didn't cheat to pass the exam for him. He passed the exam early on in his teenage years. He didn't need to write the exam again. But every year he would sign up. Every time the exam happened, he would sign up for the exam, and then he would go in there not writing for himself. He would go in there to cheat for someone else. And the worst part was, even though everybody knew that he's going to cheat for someone, no one ever could catch him doing it. Okay? No one ever could catch him in the act doing it. And then after the exam, a few like a month after the exam, after they already announced who got selected, who was the highest score and stuff like that, he would write a letter to the emperor and say, haha, this guy who you guys think is so smart, I cheated for him. Look, this is, if you don't believe me, this is, look at this section on his paper, right? This section, I can recite every word on this section, and he wrote this here, and he wrote he his poem rhymed this way, and because I wrote it for him, so you guys are fools thinking he's so smart. And he would do that every time, right? He would do that every time. Every time there's an exam, Wen Qingyun signed himself up, and then to make it even worse for the administrators, for the the examiners, he would park himself right in front of them. He would sit right across from the exam, like the supervisors of the exam, where they could see him, and he still managed to cheat for someone else. Even then, like they never caught him doing it, but every time after the exam, he would write them a letter to taunt them and tell them how much of a fool they were. Finally, after years and years of trying to catch him, because if they were able to catch him in the act, then they could actually sentence him to death for interfering with the imperial exam. But because they never caught him in the act, all they had were letters from him claiming that he cheated for someone. It was driving the imperial examiners crazy. Like every time they saw Wen Tingyun sitting across from them during the exam, that's like so much pressure for these examiners. They had to watch him like a hawk and try to see what the heck he's up to, and it just like really interfering with their job. So finally, after years and years of putting up with that, uh, don't forget he's a descendant of one of the emperor's royal advisors. That's why they put up with him as well. But after years of putting up with this, finally the emperor himself had enough of it, and the emperor himself uh, decreed that Wen Tianyun will be banned from entering the imperial exam ground for the rest of his life. He's not allowed to work for the government. He's not allowed to go anywhere near the exam. So therefore, such a great mind, one of the another one of the smartest people in Tang Dynasty, was banned from ever working for the government because he was too weird, too quirky. He didn't know when to keep that, put a lid on it. In other words, now we come to the third reason why a lot of these scholars, these great minds, were not well used by the government. And quite often it's this third one. They were too goddamn honest. Right? Sometimes, sad to say, these people, these great scholars, great minds, great thinkers, they have really high IQ, but their EQ really needed some work. It's like you look at the kind of things they did, the kind of things they said, you think the guy had rock in their head or something, right? Uh, an example I can give you for this one is really sad. Okay, one of the greatest mind in the Ming Dynasty. We fast forward to the Ming Dynasty about 800 years ago. Ming Dynasty. Uh, one of the greatest mind of the Ming Dynasty is this scholar by the name of Xie Jin. Xie Jin, his literary work was so influential that even today we still study Xie Jin's work in elementary school in China and Taiwan. A lot of the greatest New Year couplet that you see people put on their door came from Xie Jin. He was a master of New Year couplet. He was a master poet, and he was a master poet. He was really good at uh, coming up with plans to reform the government and stuff like that. But he was so smart and so successful that at one point he was the prime minister of the Ming emperor. So, what happened? How did the prime minister of the Ming emperor ended up frozen to death in the snow, all alone, forgotten? Well, we have to look at the kind of personality Xie Jin had. Xie Jin was a great person, smart, really smart, uh, but his EQ really needed a lot of work. When he first finished the imperial exam and started working for the government, the Ming Dynasty just got started, and it was under the rule of the founding Ming Emperor, Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang himself. So we talked about Zhu Yuanzhang before. He's like known for killing off a lot of his loyal subjects. Very suspicious mind and kind of violent and evil tempered. Um, but Zhu Yuanzhang, once upon a time, said to Xie Jin, "Even though I am your emperor, I see you as a son. Uh, so you should see me as your father, and you can always be honest with me." Sound good, right? But I think most of us that with no our normal everyday intelligence know that that is just lip service. That we know that when the emperor tell you, hell, even when your dad tell you, you can always be honest with me. You don't want to always be honest with your dad, right? Even when your wife or husband tell you, you can always be honest with me. Most of us know that you got to be a little bit careful with that. So apparently, Xie Jin didn't because he was so happy that Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang said, "You should be always be honest with me." So next day, Xie Jin came to the imperial palace and he presented the emperor with his new masterpiece, his new plan, his plan for reforming the government. And he wrote down so many things that you should change this, you should change that, because this is why people are poor, this is why people are not educated, and you should do this and you should do that. He had a lot of things mapped out in that plan that unfortunately, even though they make sense, they were not the kind of change that could be made overnight. These A lot of these change, they were so complex, so big. Like, okay, let me give you an example. Like one of his plan was, if you want if you want to have proper transportation throughout the country, throughout the kingdom, then you need to build major highways and roads between every province and city. Yeah, okay, like that sounds great. Yeah, but do you understand that building a road, especially back then, can take years? Like sometimes it takes 20 years to build a road between two provinces. So he had some good idea, but he had no idea what these idea would take to implement. But because the Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang wanted to show that he was a good emperor, he, patted Xie Jin on the back and told everybody, "Oh, look at Xie Jin's plan for reforming the government. These are great idea, great idea. Keep it up, keep it up. I like ideas like this. Keep it up." And because he really believed that the emperor was so amazed by him, less than a week later, Xie Jin came back with another plan, and in this plan, he had it. You should fire this person. You should fire that person. This person shouldn't be the minister of defense. This person, like he came back with a whole list of people that the emperor should fire. The worst part was in this list, there were even things that he believed the emperor was doing wrong. Like he wrote down all the things that he thinks the emperor himself was doing wrong, and how the emperor was slowing down progress and all that stuff. It's like, okay, you told me to be honest. I am being honest. Well, this time, the emperor just kind of put this paper to the side and didn't address it because he was pissed off, but he was still trying to be nice because he did tell Xie Jin to be honest, so he was trying to be a little bit more lenient. So he just basically put it to the side and forgot about it. Well, Xie Jin did not get the message. Xie Jin continued to submit paper after paper, complaining about this person, talking crap about that person, and pointing out all the stuff that the emperor was doing wrong. Every week, it was like more and more. And finally, one day, Xie Jin wrote something bad about the military general himself, and the military general heard about it, and so he waited for Xie Jin in front of the palace, and then the two of them started arguing right there in front of the imperial palace, and Xie Jin. Saying that the general was misusing his power, and the general saying things like, you're just a stupid scholar. What do you know about military matters? And then the two of them argued for so long that finally they were told to go in and see the emperor, and the emperor was going to sort them out. Well, think of it from the emperor's point of view. Xie Jin is just one of your many advisors. Would you really pick the side of your one of your many advisors over the general of your imperial army? Would you really want to piss off your imperial general? Probably not. So, in frustration, the emperor told the royal guard to go fetch Xie Jin's dad. And he told Xie Jin's dad, "Take your son home. He is unruly. He doesn't know how to behave himself. He oversteps his boundary. He offends people. I want you to keep him at home. He's not allowed to dabble in politics until he learns some proper manner, and until he can learn to behave himself." So Xie Jin was sent home in uh, pretty much sent home in disgrace, and stayed back on the farm for the next 10 years without being allowed to come back to the imperial city. Now, lucky for him, Emperor Zhu Yuanzhang died somewhere along this time, and his son Zhu Di, not Judy, but Zhu Di, his son Zhu Di, became the next emperor. And Zhu Di was a big fan of Xie Jin. So Zhu Di reinstated Xie Jin, made him the prime minister even. So Xie Jin came back to the imperial city, so, became the prime minister, and was awarded even more power than he ever had. And Zhu Di basically said, "Hey, all those great plans you had, now go ahead, go and implement them." Oh, Xie Jin was in cloud nine. He was on cloud nine. He was in paradise. Like, finally, after being exiled for 10 years, now I can put my great plans into action. During one public appearance, Emperor Zhu Di said to everybody, "The kingdom cannot go a day without me, and I cannot go a day without Xie Jin." Oh, so this made Xie Jin feel really important. And unfortunately, again, he believed everything the emperor was saying. The emperor didn't really mean that. The emperor said that as a publicity stunt. The emperor basically said what he said, so people would know that, oh, our emperor really values scholars. We should all go work for the emperor. We will be well treated really well by the emperor. Like, that was meant to be a publicity thing. He didn't say, "I cannot go a day without Xie Jin." Like, he didn't mean it literally. Well, Xie Jin, being Xie Jin, being of somewhat low EQ, took it literally, and he believed, wow, the emperor cannot go a day without me, so I should uh, get involved with everything the emperor does and think and plan. So one day, when Xie Jin heard that the emperor wanted to uh, make his second son the successor to the throne rather than his first son, Xie Jin went to the palace and pointed his finger at the emperor and basically bitched the emperor out and told the emperor that you are going against tradition. Traditionally, everybody you have to use the first son. The first son of the emperor have to be the royal prince and be the successor. You cannot go against your ancestors. Going to you're basically going to hell if you go against tradition. Nobody will listen to you. And he was going on and on and on. And the emperor was so mad, he ordered Xie Jin thrown out of the palace. Didn't want to see Xie Jin for a few months. But because what Xie Jin said wasn't exactly wrong, so the emperor had no choice but instate the first son, first prince, to be the royal successor instead. But because of how uh, the emperor really liked his second son more than the first son, and he felt that he was forced to uh, make the first son his successor, and he felt sorry for his second son. So he started to giving a lot of awards. He awarded a lot of lands, a lot of titles to his second son as a form of compensation. Again, Xie Jin wasn't okay with that. So Xie Jin came back to the palace and went to the emperor and said, "You are playing favoritism. You are treating the second son too good. You gave him a lot of land and title, and he's building his own army. So you are going to have your sons fighting each other. When your first son take over the throne, your second son is going to rebel, and that's not okay. So you shouldn't be playing favoritism. You should treat them all equal." The emperor finally had enough of it. Like, okay, I already listened to you when you said put the first son to be my successor. I couldn't argue with you because you were using tradition against me. Now you are telling me I can't treat my second son good. You're telling me I can't favor my second son. You're trying to like influence my how I run my family. Who do you think you are? The emperor had Xie Jin thrown in jail and then promptly forgot about him. About 5 years later, during one um, inspection of the jail, when the list of the current prisoners, the names were presented to Emperor Zhu Di, he saw Xie Jin's name on the list, and he's like, "Oh damn! I forgot about Xie Jin. He's still in jail. He's still alive." And because the emperor said it that way, he said he's still alive. The jail warden took that as that's the emperor's way of saying, "Why didn't you kill him? I want this guy dead. Why didn't you kill him?" So that night, the warden brought Xie Jin a lot of wine, make him really, really drunk, and then took him outside and buried his drunk body in the freezing snow and left him there. By morning, Xie Jin, one of the greatest minds of the Ming Dynasty, was dead, frozen to death in the snow in the middle of the night, forgotten by everybody, including his own emperor. So you see, a lot of these great minds throughout history, throughout Chinese history, uh, they were smart, they were great in their own field, but they were either too loud, too offensive, or too honest, or too weird. It's like most of these people really needed a lesson in how to upgrade their EQ. So I think a lot of us can learn from that today. A lot of time we may feel that we are perfect for the job because we are really good at what we do. But in the end, I think learning to be humble, learning to get along with people around you is the ultimate key to success. Thank you for checking out today's episode. We'll be back again tomorrow for Toy Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见。